Hello all, this is John from EastCoastArmory.com, and I'm here today with a model showcase video for this 1/16 scale, fully radio controlled M26 Pershing. This model that you see here was a commission build and is going to a private collector. Like in my previous commission build videos, I frequently accept build commissions from models ranging from 1/35 scale all the way up to 1/6 scale. As for cost and time frame for building a model like this, that information can be obtained by contacting me, by emailing me through info@eastcoastarmory.com, or by go ahead and contacting me through Facebook. The model that you see here started off as a 1/16 scale full option Tamiya M26 or T26E3 Pershing. The model was already pre-started and was left in a pre-started state until the client contacted me to build it for him. The build itself required me to tear down the suspension, get everything primed and painted, and then go ahead and start building it up. The build also features lots of aftermarket parts that were purchased by the client, and all these parts have been installed onto the model, which we will go over in this video. Now we'll do a quick walk around the vehicle. That we can see is that the model has been built for the Korean War with the full tiger face paint as well as the yellow markings painted on the sides. One thing as of note, during the Korean War, only photographic evidence survives of M46 Pattons receiving the tiger face paint and not the M26 Pershing. Starting with the rear of the vehicle, we can see the model's travel lock. This travel lock here is an aftermarket replacement version, and it is all in metal. Now, as of note, for this model to be for the Korean War, it would have to be an M26A1 Pershing. On the M26A1 Pershing, this travel lock here was moved from being an integral casting on the exhaust to a small little travel lock that was mounted up here on top of the radiator cover. The reason why this was done was it was realized that the casting for the exhaust was weakened with all the heat, and the position where the travel lock would mount would crack. So this was then changed several times and finally ended up on the M26A1 with being a travel lock, which was mounted in this location over here. Another aftermarket accessory that was added to this model is the model's tow cable. This tow cable here is from Shumo Kits and is a real metal tow cable, and the kit supplied tow cable eyelets were modified to fit on the steel cable. To fit the cable to the vehicle, I had to fabricate the missing cable locks or cable straps that we see here. These straps here are all fabricated out of soldered metal and are designed to withstand the rigors of radio control use. These straps are included with the kit, however they are molded in with the kit plastic cable. So obviously when you replace it with the metal cable, you will need to fabricate these little clips. The cable itself came pre-weathered and pre-rusted and is a very nice addition to the model. The addition that was made to the model was replacement of the tanks track with these aftermarket ones. The kit supply track is over here. These tracks here are the steel cleat type. The kit tracks themselves are made out of plastic track pads that are held together with metal pins as well as a metal guide tooth. The tracks are accurate for World War II and also Korea. However, we went ahead and swapped out the kit tracks with these aftermarket ones here. These aftermarket tracks are all die cast and are representing the later rubber chevron style track. The tracks themselves are very nicely detailed and do give the model a little bit of a different look. The tracks also add a significant amount of weight to the vehicle, which will aid in traction and will help the model when driving off-road. One thing as of note to watch out for with these all-metal tracks is because since the track itself is all comprised out of metal, we have to keep driving on hard surfaces like cement or concrete to a minimum, because the paint will scratch off of the rubber pad and you will have steel showing rather than rubber. On the model's front, the molded in front fenders were removed, giving the trimmed fender look to the vehicle, which kind of helps the look and shows more of the track. These front fenders were commonly removed in the field as they were easily damaged. Another modification that was made to the model are the front brush guards. The kit supplied brush guards were a little bit thicker in appearance and were broken when I received the model. Rather than trying to piece together and piecemeal out the broken pieces, I went ahead and replaced them all together with two scratch-built sheet metal ones, which were all soldered together. Also, as of note, they include the small little container for the spare headlight, or for when the headlight is in storage use, which is this little tube mounted right over here. The way it would work is you would remove the headlight and pop it into that little canister there. The model also includes many other Shumo kit white metal accessories, including the periscope brush guards. It features brush guards on all four of the bow periscopes. And it also features the periscope guard, or the brush guard, on the loader scope that's mounted over there on top of the turret. Some more Shumo parts include the vane rangefinder, the mount for the searchlight. Another Shumo accessory that was used on this model was the 50 caliber storage clamp, as well as the 50 caliber retracting travel lock here. As well as the storage clamp, the model also features Shumo white metal replacement storage locker grab handles, and the lower portion here of the late single hatch copula. To recharge the battery on this tank, rather than having you to take it apart, I designed an extension wire that moves the battery jack into the turret. The way we get access to it is we first rotate the copula for it to come off like so, and then we reach inside and pull out the wiring. Here are your battery jacks here. This one here that's labeled as battery connects to the battery, and you could just hook up your recharge jack directly to this and it will charge the model without having to fuss around with removing the upper hull or the turret. Once you're done charging, it simply gets reconnected and stuffed back into the rear portion here of the bustle. We then go ahead and remount the copula, line up the front periscope with the sight vane, and the tank is ready to go. Another modification that was made to the model was the location of the model's antenna. Because this model is radio control, it needs to have an external antenna. The kit does supply you with an external antenna. However, they want you to mount it to the vehicle in an incorrect way. Over here in this portion of the turret is the other position for the MP48 spring antenna base. However, the kit supplied antenna is just a basic metal wire that gets screwed to the inside portion of the turret, and then that will connect to your radio receiver. Rather than going with this route, which looks kind of chunky and detracts from the look of the model, I went ahead and modified the kit supplied MP48 spring antenna base for the model's radio antenna. As for the kit supplied MP48 spring antenna base, it's actually a very nice piece, in that Tamiya gave you the antenna base in three components. You have the bottom base, a metal spring, and the insulator top. To modify this piece for the antenna, I actually used the same design that I use on my 1/6 scale radio-controlled MP48 spring antenna bases. The wire here, the actual antenna itself, is the kit-supplied metal wire that was trimmed and then mounted inside of the insulator here. The insulator was carefully hollowed out, and a small wire was soldered to the antenna. This wire is then run through the antenna base, into the turret, and then connects to the model's radio receiver. By doing this, it extends the radio range on the model, and it doesn't hurt the look of the model, and the antenna is nice at its full function. As for the location where the kit wanted you to use their kit supplied antenna, the slit that was molded into the turret was simply plated over with a small machine resting. On the turret spare track rack, we could see that I use the spare links of the rubber chevron aftermarket tracks that I used on the chassis. If we notice that the track pads are mounted inverted, in that we have the front face of the track pointing outward and we have the teeth, which would normally be pointing in the reverse direction, pointing outward. The reason why these are inverted is that with this track design, the crews had trouble fitting the tracks to the turret's track rack the other way because of the thick rubber chevron on the pad. So what was done was they would just invert the pads like the way you would see it here. This was only done on Pershings or Pattons that had the thicker rubber chevron style track pad. Another quick modification that was made to the kit was on the engine lifting stands. The kit has them casted or molded solid, and I simply just took a Dremel with a bit and drilled out the engine stands here. This small little bit of detail helps with the look of the model. For the tank's main gun barrel, and the original kit barrel was replaced with this aftermarket one. The kit supplies you with a turned aluminum, taperless 90mm gun barrel. This was the barrel that the M26 or the T26E3 was originally armed with. Later on, when the M26s were upgraded to A1 specifications, the gun was replaced with this other gun barrel here. The main difference is the bore evacuator, which is this large tube that we see here on the front of the gun. Another detail as of note is that when the guns were swapped over, they had a different style muzzle brake. The muzzle brake was the shortened version, which was missing the second baffle ring. The barrel itself is an aftermarket piece, and as I mentioned, it's all turned aluminum. The barrel is very nicely detailed and mates to the Tamiya piece without any issues. All of the model's interior portion of the hatches have been painted and weathered. One thing that's nice about the Tamiya model is that to turn the vehicle on, it is the main power switch is located directly underneath the driver hatch. We will now turn the model on. I first open up the front driver hatch, hit the switch. Now the model is designed to fire up the engine when you turn on the radio, like so. As I mentioned before, the model is painted for the Korean War. The reason why American tanks received this paint job was because it was, once the Chinese entered the war, it was figured that the Chinese, being very superstitious, if they painted their tanks like tigers, it would put fear in the Chinese. The paint pattern that you see here is all hand painted and is not used with help of a stencil. The only piece that was airbrushed was the yellow around the turret and on the hull. The actual face markings and the stripes are all applied by hand with a paintbrush, and it's all done freehand. Very similar in the fashion as was applied to the real vehicles. And that concludes this model showcase video for this 1/16 scale M26A1 style Pershing tank. Stay tuned for more 1/6 scale build videos. Also, like us on Facebook at facebook.com/East Coast Armory. And also, don't forget to check out eastcoastarmory.com for more 1/6 scale tank builds, as well as 1/6 scale detail components. Thank you.